Hello everybody and welcome to this video tutorial on how to use BiaPy from notebooks. So if you are in the landing page of BiaPy, you can just scroll down and then you will see that you have different options on how to install and execute BiaPy. So we're gonna go and select the second one, Colab Notebooks, because I will show you how to use these notebooks from Google Colab. There are two sets of notebooks. The first one is to apply an already trained model on your data, and the second list of workflows is the more generic one, where we have a specific notebook for each workflow in 2D and 3D. If you click, for example, on Instance Segmentation 2D, a new tab will open, and then you get a generic kind of notebook where you have always on the left this table of contents with the different sections and subsections of your notebook. Okay. And then in the central part of the page, you will have different cells, what we call cells. So there are either text cells with descriptions of what you're going to have to do, or code cells that you have to execute. You don't see the code. So those are code-free cells. So anyway, we start, and then we see that we have a description of the specific workflow. In this case, it's a 2D instance segmentation pipeline. So we see that we need a kind of input image, a raw image that could be grayscale or RGB, and then the outputs are going to be always images with instances, meaning labels for every object of interest in the same image. We have a list of things that we're going to learn if we follow step by step the different instructions of the notebook. And then, very important, we have the list of expected inputs and outputs. This is very general to all the notebooks, and we're always going to need a set of folders. On the one hand, if we're doing a supervised workflow, we have some training data that we need to provide to the model, usually raw images and label images. In this case, the label images could be the 2D instance labels of the raw images. And then we have a test set where we can evaluate our trained model once it is trained, of course. And then we have raw images and optionally label images. If we don't provide test label images, then the trained model will be executed on the test raw images and the results would be stored and you can download them, but they won't be evaluated. Usually we follow this kind of a structure for the data sets. Now we have a main folder with subfolders for train and test, and every partition, train and test, is also divided in subfolders with the raw images and the label images. Again, for the test case, this is optional. And this is just an example. You can have your folders as you want, as long as the different partitions, label or unlabeled, are in a specific folder that you can specify later. So there are three ways of doing this. Okay? You continue in the notebook. There are three options. You can either have your data in your local machine, so you have to run these cells here to upload the different folders. Okay? You may have, in the second option, all your data in Google Drive. For example, if I click here, I have the specific subfolders here, no? Train and test, with the different subfolders that I mentioned before. Okay, so this is under my drive, so I can actually run this cell to give permissions to Google Drive to interact with this notebook. A third option, if you don't have data at all, is to run an example dataset. I'm going to do this because it's faster for this tutorial. In this case, I'm going to use the Stardust version 2 dataset from Zero Cost Deep Learning for Microscopy, which is a great example for this notebook and this workflow in particular. So when I click first on one of these cells, these are the code cells, they get executed for the first time. It will get connected to a remote machine from Google, and then hopefully I will get a GPU. In this case, yes, I get a T4 GPU, so everything is going to be faster. Then it gets to download the example datasets. Those datasets are stored in our BiaPy accounts, okay? And it takes some time to download them, usually not that much if the data set is not that big as this one. And then you see that it gets stored under the path /content/data. You want to see where this file went, you just click on this folder here, okay? And you see that you have, this is content, okay, and this is data. So you can go and navigate through it, and then it has the same structure that I mentioned before. Now in test, for example, if I go to X, there are just two the images. Okay. Back to the sections. Now we have to specify where the data is, and specifically all those folders. And I need to specify the raw image folder, the label image folder for training and test. In this case, I have labels for the test dataset, and also a path where I will store my results. So I will just put it on /content/output. By default here, all these paths are set by default to the loaded datasets. Okay, so if you just click on here, then we will assign those paths. Here we have a data visualization cell, which is quite nice because then we can explore our data and see if everything is correct. While we play this cell, we'll get these options. So we have to select either the training set or the test set to load image from, and then we will load both the raw image and the label image. Okay, so in this case we navigate by interacting with the different image indexes. Here we have 45 images in the training set, so we can go, for example, to image 20, and it takes just a few seconds to load the corresponding input image and label image. Okay? And we can do the same for the test set. So we see that images are loaded correctly. Then probably the thing that takes most time in this notebook is to install BiaPy. Okay? So when I go to this cell, I click on play to install BiaPy, and it also installs all the dependencies needed to execute BiaPy. This may take a while depending on BiaPy version and also the different libraries that are already installed in Google Colab. And this goes changing from time to time. So it may take just a few minutes, or it may take just a few seconds depending on Google. So I'm gonna speed up this and jump to the end of it. Okay, so after 3 minutes, everything got properly installed. You should see some positive messages at the end of the cell, and then we can jump into the following cell. Here we have to configure the training, and the first thing you have to do is to decide if you want to use a model from the Bioimage Model Zoo, a model from BiaPy, or a model from Torch Vision. In order to see which models are compatible with this workflow in the Bioimage Model Zoo, you have to run the following cell. Okay, so we click here, and then after a few seconds, you will get the list of all the available notebooks in the zoo that are compatible with this workflow. In this case, to the instance segmentation. And then you see that you have a nickname for each of them. In the next cell, you have to actually select the source of your models, either BiaPy, Torch Vision, or the zoo. So you click here, and then you have to select one of these three buttons. So you click on BiaPy, nothing happens because this is the expected behavior by default. You click on Torch Vision, then you should see a list of available models for this task. You click on the Bioimage Model Zoo, you will get a field where you need to input the specific nickname of the model that you're going to use from the zoo. For now, I'm going to use BiaPy, so nothing should appear here. Next, we have to select parameters. There's some parameters that are essential that need to be carefully selected, and some others that are important, but by default they should work. Okay, so we have, for example, the name of the model, the data management, and the basic training parameters. That is basically the most important thing of the workflow. And then some advanced parameters that you can play with if you are comfortable with these kind of approaches. So the name by default is called my 2D instance segmentation. You can change it to the name that you want. Please don't use hyphens, use underscores. It's safer, okay? And then you have to select if you want to use ground truth, meaning if your test labels exist or not. In this case, they do. So we select this option. And then we can select the percentage of the training images that will be used for validation. 10-20% is a good number. Then we have some basic training parameters, such as the input channels. You have to set 1 if your images are grayscale, or 3 if they are RGB. Okay, and then the number of epochs, how many iterations this model is going to be trained on. And then you have an important parameter that is called patience, which is the number of epochs after which, if there's no changes or no improvement in the training will be a stop. Okay, and then we have other parameters that are particular of this workflow that you can also select, but I'm not going to get into detail because these are specific of the workflow. So once we're happy with this, we can click on the cell. They will be stored. Then we have a cell in order to load the pre-trained model if you have one. Okay, so if you click here, it will ask you to upload your model. Okay, this is a model that you have downloaded previously from the same workflow or from another place. Okay, in general you won't have that, so you can skip this. It's also optional. And then you are ready to train your model for this workflow. So we click here, and then you will see that a lot of information appears on the screen. The data will get prepared, and then it will start, hopefully, training on that data. And something went bad. Okay, so now we are ready to train our model. And for that, we can go to Train Model and click Play on that specific cell. So you will see that in the output, you will see a lot of information. The data will get prepared, and then hopefully very fast it will start training and giving you information about the results of every epoch, every iteration of the training. Okay, there are some metrics that are displayed as well that are specific of every workflow. Okay, so again, to speed up the process, I will wait until this finishes and I'll be back to you. Okay, so after 19 minutes of training, we have already finished, and then some results are plotted here, where we can see some information about the training and the testing, because the train model is then applied to the test data. So we see some statistics or metrics associated with these results, which are dependent on the workflow. More information is also plotted later in the next cell. If we click here, we can plot both the evolution of the training error as a function of the epochs for both the training and the validation sets, and same thing for some metrics, in this case the intersection over the union as a function of the epochs. And then we can see how it gets improving and more or less getting in a stable position after a few epochs. Now, the next thing that we can do is to visualize some results. So for that, we can click here in the first cell of Visualize Instance Segmentation Results. And then some random images from the test set will be displayed. Okay? The original images, the ground truth if it exists, and the predictions. Okay? In this case, we can also overlap both, okay, and see which are the differences between the prediction and the ground truth. Again, this is specific of this workflow. We can also see or display where the output files are, in case you forget about them. You can see that when I run this cell, it says that all the results are in /content/output, and then the name of the job or experiment that we selected before. So you can verify that by clicking here in Files, and then you see that there is this output folder with all the subfolders that BiaPy creates. You can then download the results in a zip file. It may take a while. Okay, you have to allow Google to download it in your browser. Okay. You can download the model. Remember, in BiaPy, there are two distinct files. One is the one associated with the model, with its specific weights, and another one that is the configuration of the workflow. So you can download both in separate cells. This is to download the weight. Again, it can take some seconds. And then this is to download the YAML file with the configuration of your entire workflow with all the options that you selected. Finally, we have some cells to export your trained model and the BioImage model to format. Okay, I will explain this in another video. And you can also, in this case, keep playing with the parameters of the instance segmentation and rerunning the same model with different parameters. In this case, for new post-processing. Okay, I did this before, and then the results improve a little bit. Okay, so that's all. Again, this is a generic video about workflows in general. Remember that this structure, it will be repeated in all the workflows in 2D and 3D. Remember to contact us if you have any trouble with any of the things that I explained here, or in general with BiaPy. Thanks so much for your attention.